We are able to see the slides, right? That PDF file.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So today's class, I'll continue with stability analysis. So I will introduce. We'll solve some simple. We'll understand some simple scenarios where we'll look into the stability of that structure, and I'll then introduce the concept of elastic post buckling behavior. So there are some terms like stiffening spring, softening spring, and then what is the effect of eccentricity or the effect of imperfection in the column. Then I will probably explain the concept of imperfection sensitivity. And there is this necking of tension members. It is a form of material instability. I have not done slides on this, so I cannot discuss that in this class. But I can cover the first two topics. So this is first topic is just a revision of what you have learned earlier in earlier classes. So we have a column here which is pin connection at the bottom, and at the top there is a axial load acting, and this free end is this end is connected to two springs. So under the action of axial load, this column will usually compress, and that is a position of equilibrium. We can find out an alternate position of equilibrium by displacing the top end by a small distance x in the right direction, in the rightward direction. So we are displacing this point to the right by a distance x, and this is the deformed shape, and this is also in equilibrium. We want to find what is the relation between P and the geometry. So to do that, we draw the free body diagram for this column in the deformed configuration. So this is the deformed configuration, and at this point there is a spring force which will be pulling in the leftward direction, and this spring will push this point in the right, also in the leftward direction. So the here the first spring is stretched by x quantity, so the spring force will be kx, and here the right spring is compressed by x quantity, so again the spring force will also be kx, and both will act to the left. So we have kx and kx acting on the spring at the acting at that point, and there is this axial load P and there is this axial load P, and we have the reaction at the from the pin. So this is the equilibrium position in the deformed configuration. Now we can find out what is the overturning moment, which will try to topple the column and make it deform more and more away from the initial configuration. So that toppling moment is P into the distance, lever arm. So P into x, and we can find out what is the restoring moment. So this spring force will try to restore this column back to its original undeformed shape. So that restoring force is kx plus kx into the lever arm. So this is small angle L theta. So we can approximately keep it L. Okay. So the restoring force is restoring moment is 2kx into L. So we can apply the moment equilibrium about this point O. So we have Px, which is in clockwise direction, so minus Px, and 2kxl, which is in the anti-clockwise direction. So this is in equilibrium. So sigma m0 is 0. We can take x quantity common, and we get 2kl minus P. So there are two solutions. One is x is equal to 0, and if x is equal to 0, then it will come back to its it will be like a trivial solution, because it is just the initial configuration which is in equilibrium. And the second solution is 2kl minus P is 0, so P is equal to 2kl. So we get the critical buckling load as 2kl. So as long as the applied load P is less than 2kl, this structure will be stable. That means the column will come back, even if you give a small displacement, the column will come back to its original configuration. But once P exceeds this 2kl quantity, then once a small displacement is given, the column will keep continuing moving to the right. It will not come back to its undeformed configuration. So you can look at it in another way. You can say that as long as restoring moment is exceeding the overturning moment, that is the spring force into L is exceeding the overturning moment P into X, the column will come back to its initial equivalent position. So you can cancel out X value and you get same thing. P is less than 2KL. So I think this is just a summary. We had discussed it in a different way. Like we have put a torsional spring in earlier class. We had put a torsional spring and we did the analysis. Here we're putting a this normal springs and we are doing this analysis. So the same analysis, what we can do, we can give a small eccentricity and do the analysis. So real in experimental case, it will be more like the following. So in real life, we cannot have perfect loading on the column. There will be some eccentricity in the loading. That means the load will not exactly act on the centroid or the center line. It will act slightly to the left or right. And also the column itself is not straight. There will be some deformations in the not perfectly straight. It will be a little curved and all. So we can treat the column to be imperfect column. So in this case, we are looking into the eccentricity in the loading. So the eccentricity is epsilon. This is the center line of the column and load P is here. And we'll do the analysis, same analysis. So we'll displace this column by a small amount. And then we'll write the free body, we'll draw the free body diagram in the equilibrium configuration and then apply the moment equilibrium at point O. So we have displaced it by a small amount X. And this is the free body diagram. Again, the spring force will be same, Kx and Kx. The forces P and P will balance out. And only difference is that the lever arm is now, instead of X, it is X plus epsilon. Okay, so what we will have is, if we apply the moment about point O, we'll get so 2kx into L minus P into X plus epsilon. So instead of Px, we'll get P into X plus epsilon. So this term is moment equilibrium. This is equal to 0. So what we will do, we'll take the terms corresponding to X common. So we have 2KL minus P into X minus P epsilon. So we get X is equal to P epsilon by 2KL minus P. That means the deflection in this rightward direction, it is dependent on the applied load P and also on the eccentricity E epsilon. So if eccentricity is 0, that means if the column initially is perfect, the load is exactly acting on the center line, then there will be no X will be 0. But there usually will be some eccentricity in the experiments. Okay, so and another thing you can see is in the denominator we have 2KL minus P. So for small values of P, we'll get 2KL minus P a positive value and X will have some value. But as P approaches 2KL, then this value will reach 0. So as P approaches 2KL, this value will, denominator will go to 0, and as a result, X will blow up and it will become infinite value. So there will be large deflections which will happen as applied load P reaches 2KL. So this is another way to think of the buckling, another way to get the buckling load. Okay. So I think in the first time we started the topic, we analyzed a eccentric column, and then we got something like this expression for deflection in terms of the load, and then we found that the blow up will happen at PL, small PL is equal to pi by 2, something like that. And then we got the critical buckling load for the cantilever column. So then we did a buckling analysis where we took the cantilever column and then we took a simply supported beam and then we did some eigenvalue analysis and got the critical buckling load. So that was close to this methodology. So what we can do, we can now draw the bifurcation diagram. So the bifurcation diagram will be like this. OAB represents a mathematically derived solution for a perfect column. So from O to A, there will be pure axial compression, and at point A, there will be a bifurcation. So the column will go into a bending mode, and the critical buckling load will be P critical, which is 2KL. And from this analysis, from this eccentric loading analysis, we have the expression for P as a function of X. So that we are plotting here by these green color lines. So as epsilon increases, what will happen is P value will reduce. What will happen if epsilon is increasing? Then what will happen? If epsilon is 0, you will get yeah. I'm sorry, this is wrong. Okay, this is decreasing epsilon. It's not increasing epsilon. This is decreasing epsilon. Please, there's an error here. So as epsilon goes to 0, these curves approach the mathematical solution. Okay, so this line will become more and more vertical, and it will try to match the. It will get closer and closer to OA, and so please change this. This is decreasing epsilon, or the arrow should be reversed. Okay. So with decreasing eccentricity, the experimental result will match will reach closer and closer to the mathematical solution. And as P reaches P critical, so what will happen is there will be large deflections which will be happening in that column. Okay, so for all the eccentricities, as once P reaches around that ballpark of this P critical, then there will be large deflections. So here it is a deflection is large. Okay, so the column will fail there. So this is again review of what we have done, the main concepts in stability analysis. Now we look at a different phenomena. We'll ask one question: what will happen after the critical buckling load is reached, or the critical buckling load is about to be reached in real structures? Okay, so we can look at columns, plates, and shells. So column is like a one dimension. Column will have one dimension which is very high compared to the remaining two dimensions. So here the height is very large compared to the breadth and width. Okay, and in plate, you can see plates. It is subjected to this buckling load in plane. There is a load acting in plane in plane. Okay, and as a result, the column might buckle in the out of plane. Okay, so we want to find how will the column will respond to this in plane axial stress. At what point it will go from a pure compression mode to a bending mode. So, and once the critical buckling load is reached, what will happen? Whether it can take more load, or whether the plate will collapse. So these are some of the questions we want to answer. So another type of loading is this shell. So cylindrical shell. It is a very thin, like you can imagine a Coke can. So you are drinking Coke, right? I think the Coke cans are usually made of aluminum, and they are very thin in thickness, and these shells can be subjected to these axial compression loads. So usually, probably in real life, where you can see this, in space structures, there are some pressurized vessels which are of shell type, and like in naval structures like submarines, the hulls are usually this kind of shell shape, usually of the shell type. Okay, so we want to understand how these structures behave, and what will be the post buckling, means after buckling load is reached, what will happen to these structures. So actually, if you want to do this analysis, it is very mathematically intensive, and we will not we have to take some advanced course, maybe in a graduate level, so to understand all this analysis. So, but what we can do is we can do a simplified model and try to understand the main concepts here of this behavior in post buckling. So the simplified model we can introduce to understand the simplified model. I will give a way, and this is by using a non-linear spring. Okay, so usually the spring constant K doesn't depend on the x. Okay, so you will have 20 Newton per meter or 30 Newton per meter. It is a constant, and it is not depending on any other quantity. But non-linear spring, the spring constant is dependent on the actual deflection of or actual elongation or actual contraction in the spring. So it is dependent on x. So K is not constant. K is a function of x in a non-linear spring. So we can use one function like this, kx into 1 plus beta x square by L square. So if beta is 0, then you will get F is equal to kx, and that is the normal spring analysis. But if beta is greater than 0 or beta is less than 0, we will have a spring constant which is dependent on the displacement, or which is dependent on the elongation or contraction in the spring. Okay, so this is a function, non-linear function, and we can plot f is equal to kx of 1 plus beta x square by L square in this graph. So we have this on the y axis, and so we get, so what happen is, if force is doubled, then the elongation is doubled. If force is halved, then elongation is halved for beta is 0. And if beta is greater than 0, what will happen is the spring constant will follow this red color shape. So here the stiffness is increasing. So initial stiffness is simply k, and as the displacement is increasing, the stiffness of the spring is increasing. So it is more and more difficult to give a small incremental displacement. So this is a stiffening spring. Okay. And if beta is less than 0, then the stiffness, the force fx curve will be like this. So initially the spring will have a spring constant k, and as the elongation is increasing, then the spring constant is reducing, and you get this shape. So this type of springs are called softening springs, and the springs where the stiffening is increasing, those are called stiffening springs. Okay. So stiffness is increasing with with the elongation. So this is stiffness spring, and here stiffness is reducing. The k value is reducing with elongation, so it is a softening spring. So what we'll do is we will try to explain. We'll do the same problem again with this springs, with the nonlinear springs. The problem which we have taken initially, we'll analyze it using these nonlinear springs. So unlike the previous case, here the springs will the spring constant is not it is dependent on the elongation or contraction. Okay. So here again the spring force will be k times x, but k is kx into 1 plus beta x square by L square. So there are two springs, so the total spring force will be, instead of 2kx, it will be 2kx into 1 plus beta x square by L square. And we can do our adjacent equilibrium analysis, and we can equate the moment about point O. So the anti-clockwise moment is P into X, and anti-clockwise moment is Fs into L. So we can substitute those values, and we get Px minus 2kx into 1 plus beta x square by L square into L is 0. So we can take x common. So there are two solutions, x is 0 or P is equal to 2k into 1 plus beta x square by L square into L. So if beta is 0, we get the previous answer, 2kl. But if beta is greater than 0 and beta is less than 0, we'll get different answers. So we can look at the bifurcation diagram here. So for bifurcation diagram for beta is 0 is this one. So from A to B there is perfect compression, and at B there is a bifurcation happening, and the column will go into the bending mode, and this critical value is P critical, and that is equal to 2kl. So this we have discussed. Now what will happen if beta is greater than 0? So that is shown here, and that is when beta is greater than 0, it is a stiffening spring. So what will happen there is we can plot the P value as a function of x. So at x is 0, it is 2kl, and as x increases, it will go in a parabolic fashion. So because x square is coming, so the P value will increase in a parabolic way. And this is for the stiffening spring when beta is greater than 0. And the other case is when beta is less than 0, it will be 1 minus beta x square by L square. So 1 minus a negative value. So what will happen is the P value we can plot, and that is decreasing with x. Okay. Now there is something called now let's understand more about this stable so for beta is 0, it is a neutral equilibrium, and beta is greater than 0. For the stiffening spring, the equilibrium is called stable. What do you mean by stable equilibrium? Suppose you take a distance x, say distance x1. So for the intermediate distance x1, there is a corresponding load P1. So that P1 is lying on the curve PC. So the critical load has been reached, and then additional load has been applied, and the additional load is P1. And for that additional load, the displacement is x1. Now, keeping the load constant at P1, We now displace the column from the again to the right by little amount. So we are trying to displace to the right, and because the so what will happen is, because the stiffness of the spring is increasing, so the restoring force will bring back the deformed bring back that column to the original position even at P1. Okay, so at this point, if you try to displace it by a small amount to the right, the column will come back to its original position because the spring is stiffness is increasing with the elongation. So all these points B to C are in stable equilibrium. Okay, and here what will happen from B to C here? Suppose you have some intermediate point P1 and there is a corresponding distance x1. Now if you move by a small amount x1 to the right, the stiffness of the spring is reducing because it is a softening spring. The stiffness is reducing, so the load what is happening is the restoring force is reduced. As a result, the column will keep on deflecting to the right. Okay, so that's why this part B to C is called unstable equilibrium. So there are all these are equilibrium positions, but if you move them a little lightly, the column will continue deflecting, and it is unstable. But here, what will happen is if you deflect it to the right a little amount, it will come back to its original position. So all the points on B to C are equilibrium positions, but they are stable equilibrium positions. Okay, so all this is mathematics. We will try to see experimentally what will happen. So the same analysis we will do by giving a small eccentricity to the column, a small eccentricity epsilon. So let's see what will happen there. I've spoken a lot. I'll take a small break and come. So are you able to hear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I hope you are with me. I don't know, but I'll just present it. Later we can discuss again on it. I'll ask some questions. What I'm doing is and then doing the same problem again. So this is the equilibrium position, and we have the spring force Fs1, Fs2. Then the P value is there. P is acting downward. The balancing force P is there. There is a reaction here R, which is not shown, and the lever arm is x plus epsilon for P, and lever arm is L for Fs1 and Fs2. So we can write the moment equilibrium at point O, which is P into x plus epsilon minus Fs1 plus Fs2 by into L. So Fs1 plus Fs2, that we can write as it is 2 times kx into 1 plus beta x square by L square into L. Okay. So we get P into x plus epsilon is 2 kx into 1 plus beta x square by L square into L. So we can do the analysis. Beta is 0, we have done it. We have done that analysis. It will be simply 2 kx L by 2 kx L. So I have shown that bifurcation diagram and all. But here we are interested in what will happen if beta is greater than 0 and what is happening when beta is less than 0. So let's look at that. So this is the mathematical bifurcation diagram. We have A to B pure compression, and B to C there is a bending happening. And here B to C is all these positions are stable equilibrium positions. Now when you do an experiment, what will happen is the experiment depending on the eccentricity epsilon, the column will start deflecting right from the beginning. Okay, so that will go into the bending mode right from the beginning. It will not have to it will not go into bending mode at B, because there is already eccentricity present. It will start going into the bending mode immediately as soon as the load is applied. It's not increasing. Sorry, this is IN is replaced with DE. Okay, they have made the same error here. Decreasing eccentricity. Okay, so so for a given eccentricity, the column will deflect like this. So this green color shape is there. So So initially the stiffness is very high, and as the P reaches P critical, then this experimental P will move asymptotically to with respect to BC. Okay, and as the mid curve will have little higher eccentricity, so this curve will be little far away from the vertical line, and it will also deflect, and once it reaches P around the P critical value, it will again move asymptotically to BC. And similarly, the lowermost one is one with the highest eccentricity, and again it will behave like this, and afterwards it will go asymptotically towards BC. So this is the deflection, load deflection curve. The green color curves are load deflection graphs for stiffening spring. So when beta is greater than 0, this is the behavior. So what you see here is, although the buckling load is reached, the column has the structure has not failed. It can still take more and more load. Okay, so P critical load is not the limiting load for this structure. Okay, so here at P critical, usually there is a change from a axial compression to a bending mode, and that P critical is this one. And in experiments, there is no reason for the structure to fail. The structure can still take more and more load here. Okay, as you can see from this diagram, bifurcation diagram. So this is for a stiffening spring. Now what will happen with the softening spring? It is a little different. So for the softening spring, the bifurcation diagram is like this. So from A to B, there is this pure axial compression, and B to C, there is this unstable equilibrium positions. Okay, so this is the mathematical diagram. B to C is obtained mathematically, and experimentally, what we will observe is you will have a curve like this. We will have again it is decreasing epsilon. The arrow shows decreasing epsilon. So with the epsilon eccentricity decreases, this Px curve will approach the vertical line, and here the P max is less than P critical. So this is a interesting thing. Why it is interesting? Because although we can theoretically get P critical, the experimental values P max is less than P critical here. So the peak load will be reached, maximum load, and then the column will move asymptotically with respect to this mathematical BC line. Similarly for the other eccentricities. So say this is eccentricity 0.01, this is 0.1, maybe this is eccentricity 1. Okay, so once this P curve is hitting this stable this line BC, then it will move asymptotically. Okay, so let's look at so this is the interesting thing. The P maximum is less than P critical here. For stiffening spring, P max exceeds P critical, so we are not worried about. But here, the theoretically calculated P critical is less than is exceeding the experimental values P max. So let's look at this softening spring one more time. Okay, so here we have that bifurcation diagram plot BC. So the BC corresponds to 0 eccentricity, and the column with some eccentricity that is shown here, the low deflection curve. So from O to M, the column is taking more and more load, and at M it reaches the maximum value. The column takes the maximum value, and from there onwards there is this asymptotically, the column will move asymptotically with respect to this BC curve, and this is a unstable equilibrium position. And from R to S there is a again increase in the load carrying capacity of the column. I think what I want to convey here is the P max, that is the maximum load obtained in the experiment, is less than the P critical value. So if epsilon is increasing, then the P max will move down, means it will decrease. Okay, so with increasing eccentricity, the P max is reducing. So the structures which can be modeled using this softening spring, they are called as imperfection sensitive. So epsilon is a imperfection in the column, and the maximum loads in the column are sensitive to these imperfections. If the imperfections are high, then the load which can be taken by the column is less. Okay, so they are sensitive to this. So whatever structures which can be modeled by softening spring, they are imperfection sensitive. And we can draw the P max by P critical diagram in the next slide. I'll show you. So the main point here is I think there is something called snap through buckling and all, but for that I had to describe some more ideas, like a different figure and all, truss diagram, and I had to show that. And so probably I'll not explain that. So main thing I'll convey is that the P max is less than P critical, and for softening springs, there is this imperfection sensitivity coming into the picture. So this is what is happening. So P max by P critical, and here we have the imperfection, that is eccentricity epsilon by L. So if eccentricity is 0, then P max will approach P critical, and if eccentricity is increasing, then the P max will keep reducing. Okay, so that reduction is shown by this red line, and all this analysis is fine. And what is happening in real structures like shell structures? Okay. So this is a cylindrical shell, and this cylindrical shell is subjected to axial load P. So these shells were studied by NASA for their in around 1950s and 1960s. There was a lot of testing which was done on these shells, and what they found is they have the theoretical buckling loads P critical, which was obtained from the mathematical analysis. So they found that the experimental loads were very less compared to this P critical loads. So they didn't know why it was happening. They thought some other many reasons, but finally one person from I think Netherlands, William Coiter. So he proposed this post-buckling analysis theory. Okay, so then he published his thesis work, and published means he wrote his PhD thesis, and later it was found out his PhD thesis was translated from Dutch, and and it was read by this person, John Hutchinson, who is presently at Harvard University. So then he used this theory, which was developed by Coiter, to explain the buckling phenomena in these cylindrical shells. So using the post-buckling theory, they found that even small imperfections which are present in these cylindrical shells will drastically reduce the critical maximum load which it can take. So all these structures, cylindrical shells, are imperfection sensitive. That means even small change in geometry, shell geometry, or small change in application of load. If the application of load is not perfectly concentric with respect to the center line, if there is a slight undulations are there, then the column loads, column loads will drop down drastically. So usually, if P critical is 1, then the P experiment is one third to 50%. So 30% to 50% of P critical. Okay. So this was the main. This is one application of this all this analysis. So usually shell structures are imperfection sensitive. That means with small imperfections in the shell, the critical buckling loads will the experimentally observed peak loads will reduce drastically compared to the mathematically obtained critical buckling loads. And for columns and plates, these can be modeled using stiffening springs. That means the columns and plates behave like this. And here the P max which occurs in the column and the plates are higher than the critical buckling load. So we are safe here. So the experimentally when you test a plate or a column, the maximum load which the column can take or the plate can take will usually be higher than the PCR. That is a mathematically obtained Euler critical buckling load. Okay. So but what will happen is as you keep increasing the load, once the P critical is reached, then the deflections will become little higher, and the structure also will have a higher stiffness. Okay, there is an increase in the stiffness of the structure after this P critical is reached. Okay, so this brings my presentation to conclusion, this lecture. So if you're interested, you can ask some questions.